Happy day, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Grief Talk. My name is Raelene and with me is Darlene Garcia. We're both advanced grief recovery specialists with the Bullied and I chapter. We are happy to be here with you tonight to discuss something that is a real topic in our world today. So if you are here because you've been bullied, maybe you have some past experiences of being the bully, or if you have family members, loved ones who are struggling with this type of event in their lives. So again, my name is Raelene and I have here with me Darlene Garcia. And I just wanted to ask, get a temperature check. How many of you have been to one of our grief talks before, whether in person or on Zoom? You can type 1 if you've ever attended a grief talk before. And if you haven't, you can type 2. We are happy to have you. For those of you who are joining us again, welcome back. Thank you for taking the time out to be with us this evening and Darlene's early morning. Moving on to the next slide.
Yeah. Hold on.
Good. I'm seeing some numbers coming in. Thank you all for engaging with us and again, spending some time with us tonight. We understand how important your time is. Before we begin our grief talk, we always like to preface with some disclaimers and commitments. So if you, can just allow us to share that with you. Again, we are advanced grief recovery specialists certified by the Grief Recovery Institute. Many refer to us as counselors. However, we are not counselors or therapists, nor are we licensed clinicians. We are again certified advanced grief recovery specialists. And though, we are not therapists, some people find the method that we teach therapeutic in nature. So again, just those disclaimers. For our commitments, we want to ask everyone to keep an open mind. It's not going to be maybe the information you're used to receiving. Some of it may go against our beliefs and what we've been taught to believe is true and helpful. So again, just keeping an open mind for, us and for yourselves as well, okay? Which leads me into our next commitment of not judging self or others. One of the behaviors that kind of keep us from moving forward in our healing journey is a lot of times we judge ourselves, right? And sometimes we're even at fault for judging others. So again, be kind and compassionate to yourselves as we go through this and as you receive some new information. The next commitment is no comparing losses. So this is important, right? In grief recovery, we don't compare losses. Even if the loss may be similar in some aspects, comparing the loss is something that we highly advise against, and we understand that it actually does prevent us from healing and from doing the work that we need to do, right? So don't compare your losses to others, and don't apologize for your human emotion. If you feel sadness, if you feel confusion, if you feel anger, whatever those feelings are for you, please allow yourself to feel those feelings, and you do not need to apologize for those human emotions, okay? Darlene and I want you to know that this is a safe place. It's a safe space. You can chat us directly. We also have another advanced grief recovery specialist, Bobby Taitano, who will be assisting us with moderating the chat. So if you feel more comfortable with messaging her directly and she can moderate those questions or feedback, if you will, she will be there as well to support us on the technical side. So thank you again for joining us this evening. I think one last thing is just kind of going over, our stories and how we got here, what brought us to you. Again, my name is Raelene and I discovered grief recovery a couple years ago when I attended a free grief talk seminar similar to this. I actually went to the the workshop, wanting to learn more about how to be, you know, a better parent, a better supporter of my daughter. And I learned that there was actually a lot of unresolved grief that I had been dealing with that kind of kept me stuck in a place where I didn't know how to maybe take action on those past loss events. And so grief recovery definitely helped me review some of my lost history, you know, my lost relationships and the history associated with those relationships, to be able to complete that for myself and heal from those experiences. So thank you again for joining us. I'll pass it on to Darlene.
Thanks, Ray. That was a great introduction. Again, welcome everybody, and thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us. Like Raelene says, I'm Darlene Garcia. For those of you that have never been on our calls before, I've never seen any of our information online, I have been a grief recovery specialist now for 5 going on 6 years. And this came as a result of losing my husband, Frank, in a motorcycle accident back in 2015. And so, you know, grief is one of those things that we just don't know enough about. And back then, I didn't know what I didn't know. And one of the biggest things was I didn't know how to grieve correctly. And so I thought literally that I would be stuck in my pain for the rest of my life. And I really thought that was my destiny. And I actually started to be okay with that. And really the only reason that I pushed through that was I had 3 young granddaughters that were constantly hugging me and tugging at my leg and wanting me to play with them. I had no energy to do that. And so I really needed to use every ounce of energy to find a way to get out of that dark space. And I was very fortunate that the Grief Recovery Institute was introduced to me. And as a result, I took my first grief program. And let me see, we probably need to mute out some people, Ray. Or Mom, if you guys can look to see.
Yes, working on that. Thank you. Sorry, Dar, you're mute. We can't hear you. You're muted, I think.
Oh, did I mute myself in the process? All right. Okay, hold on a second. Let me just do this. Okay. All right, guys. So what I was saying was that grief recovery has been my lifeline. And so I've been on a mission to give grief a voice. And you'll see now that we're talking about bullying today, that grief is more than just the death of a loved one. It's so many other different losses, and people that have been bullied, and even the bullies themselves have suffered from grief in their lives. So we will talk about that as we move forward. But let me go ahead and move through this presentation because we don't want to take up too much of your time this evening. So what is the grief recovery method, right? The grief recovery method is one of those things that really help people get through their grief. It is the right and effective tools that help you manage through any losses in your life. We have been around for over 40 years now. And this method was created by a man named John James. John is the founder of the Grief Recovery Institute, along with Russell Friedman. Both gentlemen have died already. John recently died last month. Both have died from cancer. But we are so indebted to their work with grief. And the ladies and I, along with thousands of grief recovery specialists around the globe, pay tribute to John and Russell for the work that they do by sharing everything that we do today in helping people heal their hearts. And this is just one way that we do that. The other thing that we are so proud of about being grief recovery specialists is that our program is the only evidence-based program out there that helps support people navigate through their grief journey. And we haven't always been evidence-based, guys. We've been around, like I said, for 40 years, but it wasn't until 2018 that we actually became an evidence-based program. And that was at the hands of Dr. Rachel Nolan from the Kent State State University. She conducted the research on grief recovery and came up in her thesis that we are definitely a program that is structured and safe, and has the effective tools to help people navigate through losses of any kind. So very proud of that. Anybody that is intellectual in nature or needs some sort of evidence to prove that the work that we do works, we now have that seal of approval. So we're very, very proud of that. Let me see. Okay. So as we get into our presentation, we want everybody to reflect on your own life. Whether you're on here because you may have been bullied in your life at one point or another, or you maybe were the bully at one point. And I'll talk about my story about being a bully as we go through this presentation, or you know someone that was bullied. But we always want people to know that and remember that before you can be helpful to others, you must first help yourself. So a lot of the concepts that we're going to be talking about today, like Raelene had mentioned, is going to be very different from what you've ever heard of before. And so we ask you to keep an open mind, but also be very truthful to yourself, right? You don't have to say it out loud on this presentation or through this Zoom call, but do some self-reflection as we go through this. And if you've gone through something that we talk about, or we trigger something inside of you, then it could be time maybe that you need to look at helping yourself before you go out there and start helping other people. Okay. Okay, Ray, all yours.
Thank you for all that. So we're going to talk about now is what society has taught us about grief and some of the things that limit us, and kind of confuse us really, right? That conflict with our human emotion and our natural responses to grief. So one of the first things that we're taught by society is that it's not okay to express sad, painful, or negative feelings, right? We learn all the unhelpful ways, or maybe we don't even learn any way to express our sad and painful or negative feelings, right? And the reason for that is because society says it's only okay to feel happy, right? And that's reinforced with maybe movies, music, the culture that we're around. Social media is a big thing in our lives. It's a huge platform we use to engage with others. And where good things happen on social media, so do, not so good things, right? We don't, and I always say this is, we never see someone get on a live and say, hey, I just lost somebody in my life. It's been a rough day. These are the things that I was able to accomplish. I'm still feeling sad today, but, I'm working on that, right? There's lots of iconic things that we share on social media, lots of victories, right? Promotions, purchasing a house, getting married, having a baby, right? So where does sad feelings fit in and all of that? Sometimes there isn't anywhere for that to fit, right? And when we do express our sad feelings, that's really not allowed, right? There's something wrong with us. We are broken. Our mind and our hearts, they work differently, right? So when our heart is broken, our mind doesn't work right. But sometimes when we're sad, we come up with intellectual ways to fix our emotional challenges, maybe our emotional limitations or things that we haven't healed from. So it's difficult to navigate all of that. And on top of that, when we are feeling sad, again, it goes back to what's wrong, right? What's wrong with you? What happened that you're not happy anymore, right? So be kind and gentle to yourselves, because this information is information that's been passed along through generations and generations, right, of what we knew to be true and correct and helpful. When really a lot of what we learned is very harmful and hasn't been so helpful in our lives when enduring loss, right? Loss of any kind. Moving along to next slide. Okay, so emotion versus intellect, right? I said earlier that a lot of times we try to fix our heart with our head, right? And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. The attempt to do it never works. And so we're left really confused, right? Confused about how are we supposed to fix ourselves. And in grief recovery, we always say that grievers don't need to be fixed, right? They need to be heard. And so grief by definition is the normal and natural emotional response to a loss of any kind, right? And it's really difficult to take ourselves and shift 13 inches from our head to our heart because that's very uncomfortable. We don't really know how to do that, right? And so reminding yourselves that the information you're going to receive tonight is helpful from an emotional space. It's not intellectual at all, okay?
Let me see. Okay, am I next?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, guys, so let's talk about what we came on here to talk about, bullying. What is the meaning of bullying? So these definitions actually came out of the dictionary. So I'm going to read it verbatim here for you. Bullying is an ongoing, and I underlined ongoing here because it's important to understand that, you know, not everything that you go through in life when you have conflict with someone is bullying, right? So bullying is something that is repeated. So bullying is an ongoing and deliberate misuse of power in relationships through repeated verbal, physical, and or social behavior that intends to cause physical, social, and or psychological harm. So it is intended, it is repeated and ongoing, and it could come in various forms, right? Verbal, physical, and or social behavior. Bullying can also happen in person or online via various digital platforms and devices, and it can be obvious or it can be hidden, right? So again, not every type of bully is going to make what they're doing to someone known, and the bullied themselves are retreated back into fear and shame, and a lot of times don't tell other people that that's what's going on. So a very sensitive place for people to be, and we'll talk about why that is as we move forward. So these are the definitions of bullying based on the dictionary. So I want to talk a little bit about the bully. I'll move myself here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to start off by sharing a story with you guys about me and being the bully. And this goes all the way back to when I was 10 years old in the 5th grade. And I had a really, really good friend of mine. In fact, we called each other best friend. And, you know, some things had changed in our relationship. And I started to get jealous of some of the newfound friendships that she had, and her newfound confidence in herself and just getting out there and meeting new people and not needing me anymore. And so I started to be mean to her. And part of that meanness came with spreading rumors and lies about her, talking about her behind her back, sometimes in front of her face when she would pass by. I wrote mean things about her on the bathroom wall at school. I had other people go up to her and be mean to her as well. And so I was hurt. I was jealous. I was young and naive, didn't really know any better. Bullies, in general, hide behind a mask. It's intentional what they do, but it's intentional because they're hurt. They're in pain from something that they've gone through in their life, whether it is from the person that they're bullying or something that's happening at home. You know, something that could be maybe they're being bullied at home, and the only power that they have is in the workplace or in school, where people look up to them and they have a lot more power to deal with it. And so they target people that are not as confident, that are more power, that have less power than they do. And it makes them feel better in themselves to go out and be the bully sometimes. but a lot of times it doesn't make them feel good. I'll be honest with you. I did not feel good doing what I did to my friend, but I did what I needed to do to protect my reputation, to protect my face, and to not show her that she hurt me. Didn't want her to know that. Most bullies are unheard, right? They are not being heard, their true selves. And so they need to be loud. They need to go out there and cause havoc so that they can be heard. They need to have power, like I mentioned earlier, but truly they are really powerless inside of themselves. And one of the things that is really sad is that they mimic behavior. Children that bully mimic behavior that is happening in the home, things that they see on TV, things that they observe around with, groups of people, whether it's family members or, things that they see out in society. But it's a lot of mimicking of behavior because they see other people doing it. They think that it's okay for them to do as well, right? I saw a lot of bullying in my own life, in my family, around me in school, on TV, like I mentioned. And so I didn't think that what I was doing was wrong because I saw a lot of other people doing it. And as a child, until you're taught not to do it, you're gonna do it, right? And yes, there is a need to compensate. So bullies do what they need to do. And Raelene and I will talk about how we hide behind that mask. But one of those things is we need to compensate for the things that we lack in our lives. And so if we're lacking power in our reality, we're going to go out there and we're going to show power in a very rude and negative way to the people that we can do that to, right? We're looking for attention because maybe we're not getting it at home. We're looking for people to look at us because no one at home is looking at us. And so we're just looking for the need to compensate where we're not getting it in our own reality or inside of ourselves, okay? So that is the bully. Let's see, there we go. So Raelene is gonna take over and talk about a person that is being bullied by the bully. Okay, Ray, all yours.
Thanks for sharing. The bullied, right? The person who is being bullied or has been bullied. I've had many experiences in my life, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the deepest one, or the event that caused the deepest pain for me. I was about 15 or 16 years old. I was in high school, and I had discovered that there was a picture of me floating around on the internet. Thank goodness social media wasn't as prominent back then as it is today. But I had a friend call me at home, and this friend told me that I had to go onto Google and search my name and put in a little bit of, add in more search words to be able to locate this photo that he had come across. And my bully or bullies actually located a photo of me in my bathing suit, which was, I was just on the beach in my bathing suit, hanging out with my family, and they had actually taken that photo and they had put words on it, lots of vulgar words. They even put my home contact number and encouraged people to call for, services that were very, very inappropriate at our age. And that was my first experience of like cyberbullying, right? And I was in total shock when that happened. I was very ashamed. So people who are bullied, you'll see on our key points here that shame is a big emotion that goes through that goes through their heart, right? That fills them. I was ashamed of what they had done to me. I was ashamed to go to school after that photo was surfaced. And I knew that the people that put that together were actually spreading it around and calling people and telling them to go online and look for this photo of Raelene in her bathing suit, where it had my home phone number and very vulgar words on it. I was so ashamed of that. I didn't want to show my face at school. So it led to my avoidance of my peers. So, I was in high school, and, it's very important, right? Our parents press how important it is for us to go to school and get those credits. Make sure we don't fall behind. But I was far from wanting to go to school and show my face around people. The nasty rumors had overcome me. And there came a point in my life during that period where I was totally unheard. I didn't tell my parents what happened to me. I thought that for some reason I would be in trouble. And I understand now that that wouldn't have been the case, right?
Okay, that's enough. No more.
I'm so sorry. We're getting a little feedback. If you could just place yourself on mute. Thank you. As I was saying, I started to close off, and I was ashamed.
Raelene's muted.
Ray, you're muted.
I'm so sorry.
Nice. Come on.
I think we still are getting some feedback.
Miss Odie.
There we go. Got it.
Thank you. As I was saying, I didn't tell anyone what happened to me, what I was feeling, and what I was going through, the shame and embarrassment and humiliation that I had felt. I kept it all to myself, thus, entering a stage of being unheard, right? During that very traumatic event in my life, during, a very tender age, I closed off. And I felt embarrassed of myself. It definitely affected my confidence and my self-value. When people found out about it and my friends were talking to me about it, like, what do you think? Who do you think did it? There was a lot of intellectual advice that I was given, right? Be strong, advice to retaliate, right? Don't let the bullies get the best of you. So there's a culture around being bullied where if for some reason you feel an ounce of sadness, shame, or humiliation, it's your job to be strong. It's your job to stand up against the bully, right? And that's in a lot of anti-bullying campaigns. Dar and I were talking about how there's not much of an emphasis on the bully and the bullied and things that they may share in common and the true feelings that sit with both, right? So in that experience, I was very ashamed, and I had no idea where to start to begin to even acknowledge the negative feelings that resulted from that event. Going back, the people who I discovered had done that to me were actually my friends. So that was very interesting for me to find out, and caused me an even greater amount of grief, was the fact that these people were my friends and they had no idea I knew that they had conspired to do that. So it really changed my idea and perspective on friendships and trust. And it affected me a lot in the relationship that I pursued after that. I was untrusting. I didn't trust a lot of my new friends. I always felt, I felt fearful that they weren't real friends and that they were just kind of wanting to get close to me to hurt me again. So I put on this armor of like, don't trust anyone, right? And you'll see that those negative experiences really truly impact the future relationships that you have. So knowing that my bullies were my friends, thinking back now to what their lives were like, or at least what I knew of their lives, both were struggling at home. Both of them had their parents were separated, and where there isn't anything wrong with that, right? I guess in their situations they definitely were struggling with that and conflicted with that. I know one of the girls, her mom was very mean to her, and I knew this because I was her friend, and so she would share the things that her mom would say to her, which caused her a lot of anger, and I do believe that she projected that anger out on me. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about what the bully and the bullied have in common. So again, feel free to share your feedback. I'm seeing lots of feedback in the chat. Thank you for that. And I'll go ahead and pass it on to Dar to discuss the next slide.
Right. Thanks, Ray. Thank you so much for sharing your heart there. I know that that can't be easy to come forward and share your emotional truth about, some of the trauma that you went through being bullied. And I wanted to share just a really short story about myself when I was bullied and how it led to being the bully. And so when I told you my story about being the bully, I was in the 5th grade. But before that, I was actually bullied in the 3rd grade. And it was by a boy. And I remember him just like waiting for me in the playground during recess to confront me and to say mean things to me and to just boss me around. And it scared me to the point that I didn't want to go to school. And, my mom, I don't know if she remembers this, but I used to play sick a lot when I was in the 3rd grade. I'd say that I had a stomach ache, and a lot of times I really did have a stomach ache because I was scared. And now in my adult life, I know that I hold my grief right around my abdomen area. And so my stomach always does hurt when something is going on in my life, right? Sometimes people hold it in their head. Sometimes people hold it right in their heart. So their heart hurts. Mine is always down in my stomach. And so I would always come up with different excuses for being sick, but a lot of it was a stomach ache because I truly did have one. I was scared to go to school because I knew that this boy was going to be mean to me and boss me around, and I couldn't play with my friends on the playground because I had to hang out with him because that's what he told me I needed to do. And so again, this is things that I learned, right? I thought that because he could do that to me, I could do that to my friend who didn't deserve what I did to her. And being the bullied, there's a lot of lack of confidence in yourself. A lot of times they're introverts. And so they're a good target to go for, because they are weak or they appear to be weak. And so it's easy for a bully to target them. In the 3rd grade, I was just a little girl being bullied by a little boy, definitely much weaker than him, right? And so I just wanted to kind of show you the path that I took from being a person that was bullied to being the bully and thinking that it was okay as a child. Okay, so let me go on to the next slide. So what bullies and the bullied have in common? I know this sounds kind of really odd to even think that this is true, but it is. And being a person that was both bullied and the bully, these are my real experiences, right? So number one, they both have old wounds left untended. A bully doesn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a bully. That's my role in life. That's who I'm going to be. I like hurting people. Bullies are hurting themselves. They are hiding behind a deep mask of pain, of trauma maybe that they've gone through. They don't want people to see the real them. They're showing their pain by showing fake strength. And so there's a lot of pain behind a bully. And then they go and they project it and hurt someone else, causing them pain. And so we always say, hurt people, hurt people. But a person that is bullied and can't stand up for themselves, a lot of times it's because they've lost their self-worth, their confidence, because of what has happened in their life as well. Their belief system has taught them they aren't worthy to have courage or to have a voice. Number two, both are in varying degrees of pain from the things they've experienced in their life, just exactly what I talked about. Both a bully and a bullied person have suffered through many different losses in their life, and it continues to happen. And this is projection of that pain. And they are responding the best way that they know how. Again, when I told you my story in the beginning, I told you that I knew nothing about grief, right? You don't know what you don't know. And so if you're taught the wrong things in life, if your belief system teaches you that it's okay to show strength through hurting someone else, If that is what you were taught through observation in your life, through the adults in your life, if you're doing this as a child, then this is the best way that you know how. And so unfortunately, and very sadly, bullies and the bullied are both suffering from a lot of unhealed pain, from unresolved grief. We wanted to point that out to you guys so that you can somehow have some sort of compassion for both people. At the end of the day, they're both humans, right? But one of the things that I do want to make very clear is that a bully, just because they're in pain, does not give them the right to hurt someone else, right? So I want to put that disclaimer out there that showcasing that they both have pain does not mean that we're telling you that bullies have a reason to be a bully, right? You still need to be responsible and accountable for your actions. And this is the reason I shared, both Raelene and I shared stories of when we were minors, because it starts in the home and it starts at a very young age. And as parents, as leaders of children, coaches, teachers, it is so important to observe behavior, to look at facial expressions, the way someone is speaking to another person, and be able to really get to the core of that and address it immediately, so that that type of behavior can be stopped, or at least be told that it's wrong, that you should not be treating other people like that. And then go deeper and probably lead them down a path of seeking help, so that they can take care of their pain, so that it doesn't project negatively out on other people. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass this back over to Raelene, and she's gonna talk about the first of the 6 myths of grief. Go ahead, Ray.
Thank you for sharing that and bringing insight to what bullies and bullied have in common. Next, we're going to talk about, can we go to the next slide?
Oh, I did. Uh-oh. You know what? I think I am
On the wrong page.
Yeah, hold on a second. Oh,
okay.
How did I know this was going to happen? Okay, did it go for you? Okay, there. Can you see it?
I'll give it a second, yeah. Might be just a little lagging. Okay, it's okay. I can see it here on another device. So in grief recovery, there was a study, right, on all of the unhelpful advice that grievers over time and, in different places of the world were given during their time of grief, right, their time of pain. And the Grief Recovery Institute came up with the 6 myths of grief, and we'll go through each one and how we acquired these myths and some of the ways that we practice it, right? So the first myth is don't feel bad. First thing I want to say about, the myth don't feel bad is the first 2 words are don't feel, right? And it's important, as you know, and as we've mentioned earlier in the presentation, that feeling your feelings are very important. So when we tell our loved ones, when we tell ourselves, right, don't feel bad, they're just jealous of you, right? I heard that a lot from my parents. And don't feel bad, it's far from the heart, right? A lot of times that myth really does reinforce dismissing that person's feelings, right? And dismissing our feelings. When we tell ourselves not to feel bad, we're ignoring those negative and sad feelings. We don't allow ourselves to sit with it. And as a result, that gets buried, right? And we continue to bury those negative feelings every time we tell ourselves not to feel bad. And we continue to reinforce that belief system, even though it's well-meaning, right? And it comes from a place of love and concern. My parents didn't mean to hurt me when they gave me that advice, but it definitely was unhelpful in that it did not allow me to acknowledge what I was feeling at the time. The next myth of grief is keep busy, right? This is a myth because we know that we can be as busy as we want in a day, but when the busyness stops and the noise is, we're in silence, we feel those feelings, and those feelings definitely surface. So keeping busy just kind of prolongs our ability to take action, right? And to begin healing from pain of loss, and acknowledging what we're feeling at that time, right? So when I was being bullied, a lot of times how I kept busy was, when it was lunchtime, I would walk around the school so many times. I wouldn't sit on a bench in fear that my bully would pass by my bench, or spot me and cause further harm. I would go to the library, stay in there. I would even go to the sewing class, again, just kind of like hiding out from the people that were bullying me. I kept myself busy in school. Another myth is that time heals, right? And this comes from well-meaning family and friends. And again, if you reinforce this belief for yourself, we want to remind you to be kind, right? You take a look at your age, and that's how many years of misinformation maybe that you've been gathering and practicing. So just a reminder, right, to be kind to yourselves. Time heals is a myth because time in and of itself, as we learn in the Grief Recovery Institute, it does not have healing properties, right? Instead, it is what you do and the actions that you take in time that will actually dictate, you know, your healing journey and allow you to take action and begin that. When we wait for time to pass, we give up the opportunity to begin that work, right? And maybe we want to avoid having to do that, or we don't even know where to start. And so we tell ourselves that some time will heal those wounds. For me, I hoped and I prayed every day that time would decoy my bullies, and that they'd be diverted to someone else. As mean and as insensitive as that sounds, I was just in such desperate circumstances to be off their target. So Dar will go ahead and share the next 3 myths.
So you guys can't see the 6 myths on the screen?
I can see it now.
You can see now? Okay, good. All right, cool. Okay, guys,
Yeah,
so the next one, thank you guys. The next one is be strong, right? So again, when we talked about the bully, they're showing strength by going out and causing pain and shame to others. And so a lot of times we're hiding behind that mask of be strong. And truly, when you are going through pain, guys, you've all, I'm sure, experienced this in your life because we all grieve at some point in our life or another. It is so difficult to be strong. The energy, the emotional energy, the mental energy, the physical energy that grief causes can really be strong, and how it is really a myth, because being strong is really about showing vulnerability, about showing your emotional truth. So if you want to be strong, change that meaning, and remember that emotional truth is shows so much more strength than hiding behind a mask. The other one is grieve alone. It's one of the biggest things that we do as grievers is we isolate. And we learned this from at such a young age, right? Go to your room. I don't want to see, you know, that face when you're crying. Or like Raelene talked about earlier, right? Showing sad feelings. It's not accepted in society. And so what do? We go and we do it alone. This causes so much more emotional energy to be stuck inside of you. And, you know, this leads to so many things. It leads to becoming a bully. It leads to self-harm. It leads to all these things that Raelene and I will talk about in the next slide. But grieving alone is such a huge grief, and it's so negative in our society, and it causes so much unhealthy reactions to dealing with your pain. So we want you guys to know that you should never have to go through what you're going through alone. If the people that you're closest to don't get it, your inner circle is not safe for you. This is why we're out here. This is why we come out and we do these community outreach talks, is because we want you to know that we can be that safe person for you if you've got no one else, right? But you don't have to do this alone, okay? The last one is replace the loss. And, you know, my story of replacing the loss, I always chuckle at it now, but back then I was literally floored when my grandmother told me to move on, right? To find a boyfriend 3 days after my husband died. I thought that was like the most ridiculous advice that I ever got from the person that I thought would have so much wisdom around being a widow. And she didn't mean any ill intent by it, right? My grandmother saw me as being young and beautiful, and that I still had a chance at love. I still had a chance to be happy. And so she said it with all of those good intentions. But at the time, I was not ready to move forward. And I know now through the work that I do in grief recovery and my own journey, my own experiences, that people can't be replaced, right? Things that you love, maybe, but people cannot be replaced. And so, remember that even if you've lost a husband, a wife, a child, and people tell you these things, that you can have another child, or you can go and find another husband or another wife, or you're a teenager, there's so much fish in the sea, right? This is where we learn it from. Go and buy another pet, right? Because your pet died. These are the things that we learn at such a young age to replace that loss. But we want you to know that people cannot be replaced. And so can you make room in your heart to love more people? You absolutely can, but people cannot be replaced. So replacing the loss is a myth that damages, it hurts grievers more than it helps them. Okay, let me see if I could move on, Ray, to the next slide. There we go. Okay, you're up, Ray.
Great, thank you so much. So what we'll talk about next is what are the activities that we engage in to avoid grief, right? To avoid our pain. In grief recovery, we call this STIRBs, and that stands for short-term energy relieving behaviors. And, we all engage in STIRBs. So again, as we go through this, please be kind to yourself. STIRBs are what we do in excess to numb or avoid, right, our feelings, our negative feelings most especially. So one of the STIRBs that one may engage in when experiencing grief and loss is anger, right? Lots of people experience anger, but again, as Dar says, anger is also a surface emotion. So for most people, it's a lot easier to be angry than it is to be sad or remorseful or, any other feeling that doesn't appear as though you're strong, right? Because again, society reinforces that belief that we need to be strong. So we engage in, we feel our anger and we bully other people, right? For the bullied, for anyone who's being bullied, they may experience the need to self-harm, right? With self-harm, we know that there's a lot of intense, deep-rooted pain in the heart. And so the person that is feeling that wants to redirect that pain to something physical, right? In hopes that maybe if I do this, I will no longer feel that deep-rooted emotional pain, right? But we know that self-harm is not helpful, and that's why it is important to create safe spaces for ourselves and for those we love, so that they can express those feelings and give their pain a voice, right? Another type of STIRB one may engage in is, isolation. So, again, that stems from the belief of grieving alone, right? So isolation it's not a good thing, because when someone isolates, they're also not speaking about what they're going through. They're not giving their pain a voice, right? Maybe they're afraid to tell other people what they're going through. They don't want people to worry about them. I know that I didn't want people to worry about me when I was being bullied. I also didn't want to appear weak, right? There's also this stigma that if you say something about it, if you show your emotion, if you show that you're hurt and pained by an event, you are associated with somehow being weak, which then again reinforces the idea and the need to be strong, right? And so all of this misinformation always leads us back to behaviors that are very unhelpful and can be actually very harmful to us. Again, not all STIRBs are negative. People might also exercise a lot, right? Diet is another way that some people STIRB, especially when they have grief about their body and their image and their relationship with their body. And for some people who are bullied, sometimes they're bullied because of their weight, whether they be too skinny, right? Or too chubby or whatever it is that society wants us to believe is not normal and does not fit in, right? So just some STRBs here that we wanted to cover. Darlene can go ahead and cover the next three and maybe throw in some feedback as well.
Right. Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing on those first three. So the next one, guys, is avoidance. Again, when you think about a bully, for example, they're avoiding their pain and they're projecting it outwards. They want people to see something else. They don't want people to see that they're scared or that they're stressed or that their heart is broken, that maybe they're being, abused in the home. And so they're avoiding their pain by showing something else, by being another person. The other thing that the bullied do is they retreat, right? They isolate. That's how they avoid. They also don't, tell others what they're doing. A lot of times the bullied will just go onto the corner and do different things to make them appear to be busy and not show that, maybe they're feeling shame or that they're scared, and they'll do other things like, for example, social media. Right? In this digital world that we live in, it is so easy for us to live in somebody else's reality or to scroll through social media and look at, this is how I want to be, this is where I want to be, or go into judging others, right? In what they're posting on their social media. Social media is also a way for people to mask, right? You can be anybody you want on social media, right? Because no one really knows. The whole world is looking at your social media profile. They may not know who you are, right? Complete strangers, but you're posting all these beautiful pictures and all these things about yourself and the things that you're doing, or maybe not really doing, but you're posting it anyway because you want to get those likes, you want to get those comments, right? And so social media is a way to sometimes replace that loss. Avoid your grief, right? And it's very damaging because, when we talk about STRBs, it's all about doing the things that we shouldn't be doing, right? Instead of trying to do the things to heal our heart, we're doing the complete opposite. And all we're doing, guys, is just prolonging our ability to heal, to really get back that quality of life that we lost. Gaming is another thing that a lot of teenagers, young people do to live in a different reality than what is going on, right? Think about, someone that is going through a family that mom and dad constantly fighting, maybe on the verge of divorce. The kids, all they're hearing is mom and dad fighting. So they put their headphones on and they go into their gaming community and they start to play their games. And now their reality is away from what is actually happening in the home, right? Homework. I don't want to do homework. It's too hard. I don't want to tell my mom and dad that it's too hard. So I'm just going to go play my game. You know what? My gaming community, they get it. They get me. And you know what? I'm number one in this game. In my real life, I'm number 0. I'm nothing. Right? So I'm going to go to my gaming community because they make me feel special. They make me feel good. And I can forget everything that's happening in my life. If you've got kids that are gaming, and I get it, we always want to provide for our kids more than what we had in our own lives. And so we buy them all of these different devices. Just be very aware of what your kids are looking at, with what they're playing with, and how much time that they're spending on these devices, whether it be social media or gaming, watching TV. Gosh, I remember being a kid and being told to go outside and play. There was real connection there with other kids. But in our society today, kids are so isolated, especially with COVID, right? Not being able to go out and have real human connections. And so social media and gaming is so big right now in our society. But I'm going to tell you guys that is so damaging to being a human being. Because when it's time to go out and connect with real people, it's awkward. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's an introvert because they don't know how to connect. It's sad. It's a sad world that we live in. And it forces people to go out there and engage in activities like bullying, right? Cyberbullying is real. People have died by suicide because of cyberbullying. They're shamed. They're afraid. They don't want anybody to know that this is happening. so much easier to just kill myself. These are the realities that we face. Our children, our minors, even adults go through these things. And so STIRBs, like Raelene says, are not all bad, but a lot of them are. And it's important to understand that when you are engaging in a short-term energy relieving behavior, that you look at it for what it is and ask yourself, look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, do I need help? Do I have unresolved grief? Do I have pain in my life that I need to take care of because it's projecting out to the people that I love, or it's hurting me inside? Okay, so activities that we avoid, that we engage in to avoid our pain, to avoid our grief. So much more. Raelene and I can talk about this subject all day because there's so many, and I'm sure you guys can think of a lot more, but these are just the ones that we wanted to pull out and extract, because we know that in a bully society, these are some of the big STIRBs that people engage in. Okay, let me move forward. Okay, this is all mine, right, Ray? Okay, so workplace bullying. So now let's take us into our adult life. Raelene and I talked a lot about the children, right? What children go through when they are bullied or they are the bullies. This takes us all the way into our adult life if we don't ever heal from that pain or change our belief system around hurting people or putting on that mask. Right? Hurt people hurt people. So there's a lot of workplace bullying that goes on. I'm sure there's some of you on this call that probably have dealt with that. Both Raelene and I come from an HR profession, and so we see it day in and day out with the employees that come into our offices, or used to come into our offices to talk to us about what are some of the things that are going on in the workplace. So I'm going to take you into the life of an employee that is being bullied, right? So if this is you, pay close attention. The first thing is to acknowledge that it is bullying, call it for what it is. Because if you're trying to intellectualize it or minimize it and tell yourself that that's not what it is, then you'll never be able to seek help. Okay, so acknowledge it. If you are being bullied, and remember the definition of bully, something that is happening continuously, right? It's not just one time, but it happens over a series of events, right? Over a period of time. So acknowledge bullying for what it is, if that is what is happening to you. The next thing, right? This is my HR hat coming on now. Document everything. Document everything. You got to document facts, right? I know that as grief recovery specialists, we're always talking about human emotions, but when you're documenting, you got to keep your feelings out of it, and you just got to document dates and times and what exactly took place. Not how it made you feel, but what exactly took place. Okay, that's what it means about documenting everything. But the other thing about documenting, guys, is don't just share it with the whole world. Don't go out there and tell people that that's what you're doing. Because as an HR professional, I'm going to tell you that you won't have a strong case when you do stuff like that, because the bully will find out. And then they're going to do everything that they can to prove you wrong. And so you need to gather all your facts. If this is what is truly happening to you, gather all your facts. Make sure that you're having it time-stamped every single time, okay? The next thing is find healing and support outside of the workplace. It's unfortunate and it's very sad. And if there are leaders and HR professionals on here, I mean, no disrespect to you, but I was once an HR professional and a leader in a corporate organization. And I know that the workplace is not always a safe place for people, right? So if you are being bullied, people are always going to intellectualize, or they're going to take sides, right? Or they're not going to want to take your side a lot of times because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to lose their job. They don't want to lose face for what's going on, right? So to each his own a lot of times in the workplace. And so you need to find your healing and support outside of your work, right? Make sure that you're doing things to take care of you. Self-care is super important if you're going through something like this in the workplace. And find a professional that can help you, right? Whether it's a therapist, a counselor, a grief recovery specialist, someone that you can trust that can help you navigate through your own pain so that you can have the courage to stand up to your bully, right? That is so important. Strategize. What do I mean by strategize? You need to understand, you need to know your work's policies and procedures on bullying, harassment in the workplace. What are some of your guidelines around, building a healthy culture? So just know what your company's policies and procedures are, and make sure that you've got that, even physical in your hands, because that's part of the documentation as well. You need to be able to document what is going on and compare it. Does it align with your company's policies and procedures, right? And if it doesn't, then what are my next steps? What am I going to do? And I'm not here to tell you to leave your job, but I am here to tell you that you need to choose what's going on in your life, right? Everybody has a choice. You have a choice to deal with your bully. You have a choice not to deal with them. You have a choice to be at this job, and you have a choice not to. So you need to strategize in where you're going with your life. Once you've acknowledged that this is what is happening and you've documented it, you seek support. And a lot of times that support, that guidance that you get outside of work, they might tell you, maybe you need to think about looking for another job, right? So you need to strategize about your life, where you want to go. Take action, right? Once you strategize and you realize enough is enough, I'm going to confront my bully, confront your bully. We say that in HR, especially with harassment too, right? It's like, before you can say that it's harassment, you need to go up to the person that's doing that and say, I don't appreciate you're making me uncomfortable with what you're saying or with what you're doing, right? So taking action, the first thing about taking action is confronting the person that is exhibiting that behavior to you that is uncomfortable or painful or shameful, and tell them this is what they're doing to you. And if nothing is changed in their behavior, then you need to take action. What does that action look like? You go to your leader, you go to your HR. If your leader's the person that is bullying you, I get it. Going to HR sometimes can be uncomfortable, not easy, right? A lot of times people perceive HR as only pro company and not pro employee. I get that. I was in HR once, and I get that. That is the label that we have over our heads. And so sometimes going to HR is not always safe for you, right? But a lot of times that's just a label because other people said that, right? So sometimes you just have to trust and take that step forward. And if they don't help you with what you need to get done, then maybe you need to go even deeper, right? Sometimes legal action needs to happen, right? Department of Labor, hiring an attorney. I know that those are all intellectual things that a lot of times you don't talk about in grief recovery, but when it comes to being in the workplace, you still need to have those things, right? And so take action, whatever that action is. I hope that you never have to go down that legal route. I hope that you never have to make a decision to quit your job, and that you're able to take care of it within your organization so that it can be a safe space for you to be. But the last thing is, remember that you are a priority. And so everything that's happening in your life, if you are being bullied, you don't have to deal with that. Does it make you a weak person to walk away? It absolutely doesn't, right? You choose you. If your environment is toxic, whether it's work or home, group of friends, walk away. It takes a bigger person to walk away from a toxic environment than to stay and deal with it and continue to deal with that pain and hurt, especially if you're not going to do anything about it and just sit there and take it, right? Make yourself a priority. Make a decision. The choice is always yours. Remember that, okay? Now, if you're a leader, HR professional, this is for you, right? As an employer, what can you do? So the first thing is review available data and current policies. What does your company's policies say? What is the data? Are you even accumulating data, right? Are you looking at turnover? Do you have a high turnover rate? Are people constantly leaving your organization? It's like a revolving door, because if it is, then maybe your organization isn't safe. Maybe it doesn't have a culture that promotes inclusivity. I always have a problem saying that, get tongue-tied. Safety, just allowing people to be able to be honest about how they feel, and so run that data, do that data. If you're an analytical person, you can look at your turnover rate and see what's happening. You can look at performance reviews. How many people are having bad performance? Remember, we don't hire bad employees. And so has performance dropped in certain individuals, in certain departments? And if it is, what's going on, right? What's going on? Review your data, collect that data, and look at your policies as well, and make sure that they're aligning. Open dialogue with employees. This is one of the things that I heard a lot when I left my HR role in corporate, and people started to come to me and seek my advice and my services outside of my profession. And safety was not present in their current organization. Employers did not allow people to say how they felt or to offer suggestions in their workplace, especially those on the front line. Now, if you have a rank, if you're a leader within an organization, most often, of course, you have input. But I'm talking about people that are in the front line. I'm talking about your employees that are really working with your customers, that are right there, that maybe don't have a leadership rank, but might have a lot of good ideas. Remember, it is your employees that are dealing with each other every single day. A lot of times as leaders and HR professionals, you're not in the mix of the operation, right? And so it's your employees who know best how things should work. Are their ideas always good? No, maybe not, but it doesn't hurt to listen to it. Openly listen to their ideas. When you have that open dialogue with employees, you are promoting a culture of integrity, of transparency, honesty, and safety. Safety is huge. If you do not have safety in your organization, bullies will thrive. Bullies thrive in unsafe environments. So you need to make that environment safe for everybody. Take action, right? As leaders and HR professionals, if your current policies don't work, if you hear about something that's happening, conflict in the workplace, you got to take action, right? Stop being passive on these things. Stop turning a blind eye. I've heard it before, but this isn't a good employee. They're good. Let's just see what happens, right? Or we don't hold them accountable for their actions. And so they continue to do it. Right? There's a lot of leaders that are leaders, I don't know, sometimes by default, and don't really have, strong leadership qualities. And so they don't hold their employees accountable. It is so important that you take action. One of the very sad things that I experienced being in HR, and, I was part of that mix as well. And I didn't realize it until after my husband died, was the investigative process when it comes to bullying or harassment. Any type of conflict in the workplace, is that we try and act like the court of law, innocent until proven guilty. This means that we're not even taking into account human emotions, right? Regardless if it happened or didn't happen and you can prove it, someone was hurt, someone was shamed, there's conflict in your workplace, and we do nothing about it because we need to prove it first. Most bullying in the workplace is going to be covert, hidden. Only the bully and the bullied are going to know most often that is happening. If there are a couple of coworkers that have witnessed it, most often they're not going to come forward and say, yeah, I saw it, because they fear for their own jobs or fear that they're going to be bullied by the bully, especially if it's a boss. Right? So you have to take action. You have to be out there with your employees, observe, know what's going on, make it inclusive, make it safe. If things are not working out, you need to adjust and be flexible. Go back to those policies that you had. Maybe seek outside counsel. You know, have someone come in and look at your organization. Sometimes the outside eyes have better eyes because you've been in it. You're used to it. You don't see anything wrong. That's okay, right? Maybe sometimes hiring a consultant to look at what's going on, to talk to your employees and see what's happening, and then offer suggestions on what you can do to adjust and change where you need to. But guys, you're leaders and HR professionals. Your employees should trust you first, always. You know, when someone dies in an organization and they call us and they say, hey, Dar, hey, Raelene, we need your help. We had an employee die and we don't know how to handle it. That makes me sad because you should know how to handle it. We're humans. The first thing that we do is we're there for each other. We're emotionally honest. That was your friend, your coworker too. It hurts me too. I'm right there with you grieving, guys. We're going to get through this together. Let's just be honest about our emotions. Let each other know when we need a break, when we need to cry, just sit and be safe with each other. Right? So change your policies to make it more inclusive so that your culture thrives in safety, in harmony, inclusivity, integrity, transparency. So important. Okay, so hopefully I didn't offend any leaders or HR professionals here on this call. That was not my intent, but it's important. Remember that slide that we showed you in the beginning. Before you can help others, you must first help yourself. That works exactly the same in an organization. Leaders and HR professionals need to look at yourselves first before you can help others. Look at your culture, look at your organization. And if it's not working right, you can't sit there and blame your employees because your policies don't work, right? So adjust and be flexible. All right, that's enough of my, I love HR. I'm just telling you guys, even though I left the profession in the corporate world, I love it because I think that, you know, we're called human resources for a reason, but a lot of times we're not very human, and that's the truth. So that's the big reality of it. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Raelene, and she's going to talk about how do you take action with us, right? What are some of the programs that we have that you can avail of so that you can start healing, and let's get you back that quality of life that you so deserve. You're on mute, Ray.
Thank you. Are you sure? Did you want to go over the one-on-one grief recovery method first?
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, thanks for sharing all of that. That was so insightful, very informative. Now, you know, maybe the question you have is, now that we know this, right, what do we do with all this information? Because it can be overwhelming, right? To know that there were things you didn't know, right? And that's okay. We have different services. Some of us provide some services, and some of our other specialists can provide, different services. So for the one that Darlene can provide, she's the only one amongst the advanced grief recovery specialists that can do, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm misreading this. Okay. All of your advanced grief recovery specialists can do online one-on-one grief recovery workshops for you, okay? This is the same or very similar to how we would do it in a physical environment, but because of COVID and the pandemic, we want to be able to afford you the opportunity to do it from the comfort of your home, the safety of your, you know, wherever it is that you're comfortable with, by doing it online, right? So this approach will allow you to work directly with one of the advanced grief recovery specialists online. There's advantages to doing it this way. Again, you know, there's a lot more flexibility with time, especially if perhaps you're in a different time zone. It's definitely something you can work with your grief recovery specialist on accommodating. So if you're interested in the one-on-one grief recovery method workshop, you have Darlene Garcia, who can provide that service, myself, Raelene and I, then we have Bobby Taitano and Michelle Sasamoto, as well as Kate Baltazar Dodge. So you have 5 advanced grief recovery specialists that can do it online. Moving along, the next program that we offer is helping children with loss. So this program is actually what brought me to grief recovery in the first place. Again, a lot of times as parents, caregivers, aunts, uncles, grandparents, we worry for the children, right? We want to be there to help them. So this is a program that can definitely help you with that. This program will be focused on providing tools to be able to help children. Your specialist will take you through materials by using the When Children Grieve book. And we utilize the information in helping children with their individual losses. So this program was very beneficial to me and the relationship that I now have with my daughter. And as grief recovery specialists, we always say that if we can teach our children the children correct ways to handle, process, and express their emotion, we could save them a world of pain, right? So giving children the necessary tools they need to navigate loss of any kind will definitely be different from what we're all used to, right? But it's very effective. And I can say that as a parent who went through this program before.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Ray. And guys, just know that when we do have these group programs like helping children with loss, we do post them on our Facebook page, and we'll have that slide up and towards the end. And then if you want to work individually one-on-one with one of us, you can also get a hold of us on our Facebook page, and then Ray and I will also have our information at the end. So the next program, this is the one that I teach. It is the 2-day workshop. I actually just did one of these last month before I left Guam, and it was amazing. I always love to bring groups together. I was very fortunate that I was able to come together in person, but I also am able to do these online. So I won't be back on island, probably not until mid-2022, but I am looking to do another one of these workshops early in 2022 online, and I will be posting that on the Grief Recovery page. And also I'll be sending out emails. So if I have your email address, you'll get wind of when this will be. Haven't actually defined the date yet, but it will be coming up right after the new year for sure. The other thing that makes the 2-day workshop different is we don't use the book, and it's not guided like the one-on-one workshops that we have. I actually take the grievers down a series of different types of learning. So if you've got a lot of stuff in your belief system that does not serve you today, you have a hard time getting away from that belief system, the 2-day workshop is perfect because we really do go through many different exercises to get you away from that old belief so that you can learn new ways to put into your brain and eventually heal your heart. And so the 2-day workshop, again, is the fastest way to acquire the grief recovery method tools.